Hey, what's up guys, Steel City Dashcam here. I just wanted to do a little video showing you, this sort of applies to other vehicles too, obviously, but the specifics of checking your fluids on a 2005 Honda Pilot, as well as things to look out for. So I'm going to touch on all the main ones today. We're going to start down here with the transmission fluid. It'll usually be a yellow dipstick, but it's just kind of this boy hiding right down here. Make sure to check these on level ground. I'm not parked on perfectly level ground, so this is more for demonstration purposes. But what you're going to want to basically look for is, if this thing will autofocus, I didn't consider this, you're looking for that red color. Basically, for Honda's transmission fluid, you're looking for a nice, sweet smelling red fluid. If it's burnt, change it and keep an eye on it. And if you have any sort of metal shavings, get it looked at right away. Now, it can smell burnt just because it needs changed, so that is, of course, something to keep in mind. And it goes right down in that little hole. And you always want to wipe it off and then do it a second time to actually read it. I'm doing it the lazy way as a demonstration. Now, the next one will be the oil. This is obviously right here in front. If you haven't checked it in a while, this might be really tough to pull out. Temperature doesn't really matter on this car when you're checking your fluid. And basically what you're looking for is that the oil, 1, looks brown, and 2, is in that sort of lattice patterned area. If it's lower than that, add oil. If it's higher than that, figure out what is mixing in. If it's brown and is that level, it's sort of a bit less concerning. If you start to notice it's a lighter color or it's a darker color, something is mixing in somewhere. And again, same as the transmission fluid, you would usually wipe it off, put it back in, pull it out, and read it from that. And again, make sure you're on level ground. Washer fluid is super easy. I know mine's a little low on it. Basically, you don't need to check your level if you're already opening this up. Just top it off to the point where you start to see it come up near the top of the reservoir, maybe to, I want to say 4 inches or so. You can fill it right up to the top. Typically, in this car, there's not much of an issue with that. But just keep in mind what kind of weather you're going to be in. If it's dead of winter, get something that is meant for colder temperatures. Now this next one's going to be really hard to see. That little guy down there, that is power steering fluid. You shouldn't notice any sort of loss in this fluid. And sorry, my reservoir is absolutely filthy, so there's no easy way for me to show you this without getting some good lighting in here. But there's a min and a max on the side of the reservoir that may or may not show up here. You can sort of faintly see the lines. There's 2 lines going across. I'll put a circle around them. You want it to be in between those 2. If it's a little under that, just top it off a bit. If it's significantly low, figure out where it's leaking. I know I have a slow leak somewhere, but I'm putting maybe a bottle's worth of fluid in every year and a half, so it's not really worth spending a couple $100 to replace the lines where the small leak is coming from. Last but not least is this guy right here, the coolant. So again, there's a very clearly notated min and max. If you notice you're losing it slowly, just top it off and keep an eye on it. If you notice a white smoke out of your exhaust that smells sweet, that's where you're losing your coolant, and that's a bad sign. As well as if the lighter colored coolant is mixing with your oil or transmission fluid, all of which can happen in the radiator. Just keep in mind what you should be looking for in terms of what the quality of the fluid should be. And, you know, if you start notice something alarming, get it looked at. If it's minor, cars burn oil. I burn about a quart every 5,000 miles. New cars can burn oil. That's nothing to be too concerned about. Just make sure that you are keeping in mind what's normal for your vehicle. And when something seems out of the ordinary, take a look at it, because if you leave it be, it can turn into something worse. I almost forgot this guy. Brake fluid. Again, you should never be losing brake fluid. It's always good to check it. If you're losing brake fluid, you either have a leak in your line or you really need new brakes. I started having a leak in fluid because I needed new brakes. This is about 2.5 years ago. It's been a long time since I've even looked. I don't recall what color it's supposed to be. I don't even want to mess with it because I know it's fine. I can see on the outside where the fluid level is, and it's exactly where it should be. There are markers on the reservoir like all the others. So yeah, there's the basics of checking all of your fluids on a 2005 Honda Pilot. Obviously, a lot of these translate to other vehicles, but just keep in mind the nuances are different, locations are obviously different. Hondas use different fluids. Make sure you're using the correct fluid for your vehicle, especially if you own one of these Pilots and you need to top off that power steering down there. Honda uses a special power steering fluid. As well as a special ATF, automatic transmission fluid. Make sure you're using what's designed for the car. Same goes with coolant. Don't just dump water in it, and don't dump stuff that isn't diluted to the correct amount. Honda, you can buy 50/50 and it works. And again, with the washer fluid, just keep in mind what you're dealing with temperature-wise. And with oil, as it gets older in mileage, I am a firm believer in using synthetics, but I'm not a believer in high mileage. It doesn't make that much of a difference, at least in this vehicle. And frankly, just go with whatever you think is best, but also make sure you do adequate research to know that you're putting something that is good for your car in there. But yeah, thanks for checking this out. Leave a like, comment, subscribe. And let me know what other content in terms of routine maintenance or not so routine maintenance you would like to see on this vehicle, and I can try my best to make it happen. Have a good one.